All right, doing another one of the Homeric Rhapsody things. We're currently in book 5 now. Diomedes is starting his big moment, and so for anybody who doesn't follow these, the idea here is not necessarily to recite the Iliad word for whatever that might mean, like an actor would do. It's also not to create an entirely new thing, but rather to uphold the ancient tradition of oral storytelling, where you tell the story as well as you can remember it, embellishing where needed or where wanted, and fitting together the pieces with other embellishments that make it flow correctly, and then trying to tell it all in a way that sort of works in the kind of rhythm of what you're telling. So let's keep going and give it a shot. Sing, O Muse, of that great Aristeia of Diomedes, the son of Tydeus, who had taken up his sword on the plains of Troy, and not sheathed it again in that baldric at his chest, until the blood of many a Trojan had glutted that great bronze edge. The man had come out of his chariot, leaving Sthenelus, and joining the field of battle, with his spears and his sword, already having cast at a few men, and taking their lives, reft that great sweet life from them, and sending them down to the chariot below. He then ranged the battlefield, looking for other people to take down, and yet he soon encountered one greater even than any he had met before. Down onto earth, that goddess Athena of the gray eyes, and wearing that aegis, had joined into the body of Cronius, who was another warrior of the Argives. This man, taken up by Athena, had spoken to Diomedes, saying, "O Diomedes, Tydeus' son, show that courage that you have been showing on the battlefield, and that I have seen so many times in your father Tydeus. As I championed him when he went among hostile lands, competing in games, defeating them at all, despite my advising otherwise. And you shall do great things. Now I say to you, do not go against a god if you should so see one. I will grant you the sight that only immortals have, so that you may distinguish man from god on the battlefield and on the plain. But do not fight with the immortal gods. The blood that flows through their veins is not the red blood of men like yourself, but the ichor of Olympus, and you will not prove victorious in this. I ask and command only that you will, if you see her, fight Aphrodite, the laughing one, that one who so smugly proves a thorn in our sides, myself and the ox-eyed queen. If you should see her, you may injure her, but no other immortal are you to damage or to even raise your sword against." So did she blow into his mouth with a great wind, and that wind overtook him, and a great battle fury entered into his blood. He grew hot with rage for the Trojans. His eyes grew red. All he could see was dark red. And even none would know which side he fought for he raged among the Trojans and Achaeans alike, some thinking he may even cast in the reverse direction against their own ranks. Such was the fury within him. Diomedes saw Maeneion, and he sighted him from across the field, casting a spear with force unlike that of any man who came before, save the great runner Achilles. He cast from an impossible distance, spearing the man who did not even see or have any presumption of the death hurtling towards him. It went straight into his eye socket, catching the eye on it, and ripping it forth through the back of the skull, and cast many roods further, so as to lay quivering in the ground, eye still speared on it, all crushed to earth, and shaking as it went. All the men around marveled. They grew fearful. What was this that had caused such a cast? None could even see the man who had cast it, so far was he from their spot. Maeneion had fallen to the dust, and the great clamor of cranes and kites was to drink that blood as it lay on the battlefield on that night, unclaimed, never to have his eyes closed by his dear parents. Diomedes raged forth through the army, slashing his sword at close range. None could touch his flesh, such was the power and the speed within him. Echemon he slew, and Cropion, and Alastor, and Belessus, and Clonius. All these he took down, without even looking into their eyes. He was barely turning his head, such was the speed and skill that Diomedes had been imbued with. Up on Olympus, Athena had returned, and she spoke to that queen, her mother. It seems that Diomedes is to do our will, and to bring glory to us Olympians, who still hold true to the Achaeans. Hera was pleased at this, and she watched, along with all the others, as that great slaughter had raged forth. The other Achaeans in the army were imbued with courage by Diomedes' actions, and all had killed their man. Odysseus slew Molon, casting through his helmet ridge with his bronze sword, and that ridge could not prevent it, but went straight through into the brow and caught, so that he had to use his foot to wrench forth his sword. He took that armor and brought great glory to himself and his cause. Nestor, even the great in age, that Geranian horseman, had killed Alastor, having cast from afar, but still with strength in his limbs enough to do damage and to send that man hurtling down to Hades after a brief moment of bleeding onto the earth. And Agamemnon, and Idomeneus, and Meriones his attendant, even Menelaus, who still fought on that battlefield despite his wounds, still that pain having been numbed by Machaon, the great healer, son of Asclepius, he fought, and with only minimal pain he slew. All the Achaeans slew their man, and it was a great and terrible rout for the Trojans. Hector, still being far away, not realizing what was happening on this side of the line. He was on the left of the flank where the army seemed weakest, trying to help his forces to push forward. and while he was gaining ground, the Achaeans were doing much damage among the greatest fighters in the center. Such had the battle been turned by that goddess Athene, and such was Diomedes' glory, that he was able to rouse the entire Danaan army to action. All right, we've had a few days of doing battle scenes at this point. As much as I think they're some of the most compelling parts of the story, to read for me, and they're also the most, directly related to the game that I'm working on, I do have a hard time trying to remember, I guess, all of the intricacies of what's happening during these battle scenes. It's easy to kind of have it blur together, which is why a lot of people who do like retellings of the Iliad kind of, glaze past a lot of the battle scenes and jump straight to, the argument or the embassy or the forging of the armor or, Priam ransoming Hector and stuff like that, but not necessarily dwelling on the battles that much because it's kind of hard to the modern ear to add like what seems like kind of interest to those parts, because to the modern ear they kind of feel relatively redundant. My issue with them is that I just can't remember enough details to really make them compelling. So I'm giving it a shot. I'm still going for it. And we'll keep going with it. The game that I'm working on, you can find it on my YouTube channel. I've been working on it for a year and a half, 2 years, maybe more. I don't know actually at this point. But it's a turn-based RPG based on the Trojan War, and it's done in like the Greek Attic red figure style of pottery. So kind of a lot of visual and conceptual references there, but in addition to all the visual research I've been doing, I'm also trying to kind of like catch the ring of the way that Homer would have written. And to do that, I'm not only reading the Iliad many times, which I do anyway, but attempting to tell the Iliad in the way that Homer, as close as I can to the way that Homer would have told it, so that I would be able to kind of like come up with written content that doesn't feel like just an imitation off the top of my head. And that's not to say that I am able to do that yet very well, but it's all about practice, so we'll keep going with it.